Right. My clock says it is noon, so we will go ahead and get going. So today we're going to talk about document management with using the QMS Accreditation Manager. And document management is a really great topic to kind of understand what the options are and how to control documents within your organization, manage them from top to bottom, and do reporting and other information along the way. So real quick, so what we're going to do is we're going to just talk about real briefly what is Accreditation Manager. We will go through the document, kind of the details. We'll do a demonstration of the product. We'll do a roadmap of what's coming up and then answer questions along the way. And if you do have questions, remember there's a chat feature right inside the meeting, so feel free to go ahead and ask any questions that you might have along the way, and we'll answer them right away, or I might save them to show you directly inside of the product. I do want to call out that this is our 4th webinar in this series, so if you missed any of the previous ones, you can go to proficiency.org/resources. There you can see our webinars on the intra-manager, understanding how to manage your PT plan, and corrective actions within the QMS Accreditation Manager. So a lot of options and great resources out there for everyone. So what is Accreditation Manager? It's the online software that NAPT has built for the community. So we've taken our 25 years of experience at NAPT running proficiency testing plans and accreditation and built a tool to make it available to individuals in the community. Our goal when building QMS Manager is understanding that there are other software platforms out there, but they all seem to be incredibly complex and really expensive for organizations. So our goal is to bring a tool that I always like to say hits the 90% mark, catches pretty much everything that organizations are looking for at a much cheaper initial investment. So there's 7 pieces inside of Accreditation Manager. So you can manage your audits, corrective actions, documents, meeting, training, pending actions, and even your assets. So today we're talking about document management. And remember, as I previously mentioned, we went really in depth on corrective actions a month ago. So if you're looking for that, you can find that on our website. So let's just dive into it real quick. What is document management? How does it work? And what does it look like? So I'm logged in into our demo environment right now. The first thing I want to call out is I'm using a version of the of QMS Accreditation Manager that's going to be released to everyone this weekend. So if you're a current subscriber of the tool, it will look slightly different. That's okay. We really want to be able to show you all the really neat investments that we're doing along the way. So down the left-hand side, we can see all the different tools we have. We're talking about documents right now. So when I click on the document management, what I see at a first glance are all the documents that we've uploaded into the environment. We have the different IDs, the titles, the current version that's being used, location, and we're going to talk a lot more about that later, any tags we might have applied to it. And then the last 2 items is when was the last time the document was reviewed and when is it due for the next review? So I left some of these in here on purpose as not reviewed and old documents that have been uploaded so you can quickly see that when I logged in, I can see there's several documents here that require review. And we highlight them as red so you kind of understand what's happening so you can kind of manage it and see that. And we'll talk about some other pieces that go along with that. So if I wanted to add a new document to our document control, all I do is I click on the Create New Entry button up at the top, and it's going to ask me a handful of questions. So the first thing is, what is the document ID? And this is typically some sort of internal code, right? You can see that it talks about like QMS 101. It's a procedure document, right? So maybe this is the QMS 201 document. And then you'd enter the full title. And in this case, maybe our title is, calibration procedure for the HDTG, right? Doesn't really matter. Then we're going to have sites, and you're going to see all the different sites you have available to you. So you'll see this special one called All Sites. I'm going to come back to that in a moment, so kind of fully understand what's happening there. But I'm going to go ahead and pick Boston in this case. Then we're going to pick the type of document. Now, this document lists the types. You get to choose what your list of types are for your organization. And really, this just becomes a tool for you to be able to search and sort and manage your documents. So we always tell organizations, you want to create a good, you have a list of types. You don't want to get crazy. You don't want to have 150 types of documents, because then what's the point of organization? At the same time, you don't want 2 types of documents, because again, what's the point of organization? So try to find the one that kind of makes sense for you. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to call this, this is a reference document in this case. The next thing it's going to ask is, does this document require review? Do we need to review it as part of our quality management system, right? Most of the time, the answer might be yes. And then what you want to do is you want to indicate how often, or what's the required interval by which you believe this document is, right? And this is something that you would have set within your internal organization. What is your procedure for document review? So in my case, I'm going to go ahead and say 12 months. And then the last piece is I'm just going to come in here. I'm going to pick the document I want to add, and that's it. So I'm going to click my new document entry. It's going to do its thing, the table updates, and there we go. There's my new document, the QMS 201. We can see that it was uploaded today. It was last reviewed because we just uploaded it, and it's due to be reviewed on May 14th of 2025. When I click on this document, now I can go ahead and do some editing along it. Now, typically, right, you'd upload a document and you'd come back to it at a later time. You wouldn't do this right away, but I want to kind of show you what's happening under the hood here. So up at the top, we can manage the tags and the site. The site, again, is about permissions. So we said that this is permissioned to the Boston site, and then we've got these other 2. Again, I'm going to leave it at Boston for now, and we'll come back to kind of what that means from a permission standpoint. Then we have tags. Tags is just like types. It's another way to be able to manage and organize your documents. So you can search on tags. So, you know, and if you had existing tags, it'll show up. So, right, we'll just call this quality. We've never used that before. So we'll hit add, we'll close that. And now we can see that that's there. I could make changes here, but I really want to talk about these 4 next tabs because these are the important ones. And I'm going to work my way backwards, actually, and you'll kind of see why. So the first thing here is pending actions. I can create a series of pending actions against a document. Maybe as part of some sort of review, maybe we find an issue and we want people to take some action against this document. Please update and address that looks wrong, you know, whatever the case might be. So when you create pending actions, those items, right, you define the tasks, the details, and who it's assigned to and all those kind of fun things. And once I've assigned that pending action, that FAR person, whoever I assigned it to, will get an email letting them know that there's a pending action on a particular document that they need to take some sort of action on. So that's how the pending actions work, and you can manage, you can have an unlimited number of pending actions inside your organization. The next one is stakeholders, and really what this is about is trying to help you manage where else does this document potentially exist. And this is a really common issue that we see all the time, where an organization will have a document, but that document has a copy of it maybe on a public website, or you know, it is emailed to customers on, you know, whenever it gets updated. Whatever the case is, this is a tool for you to try to manage where do you keep this document beyond just document management. Right? And it's kind of that website idea is where we see this happen the most often, right? You have some sort of procedure document, it's in a Word document, you update it all the time, and as part of the process, you make a PDF of it, and then you put that PDF on the website for people to be able to consume. Someone comes along later, updates the document, but they didn't realize it's on the website, and now you've got this disconnect, and you kind of have this kind of weird scenario. So what I can do is I can come in and mark people who are responsible for this. So maybe Jan is responsible, and maybe the location I could put in website or whatever the case might be. I'm just going to randomly say other, and I can add them then as a stakeholder. And the idea here again is I can create a list of different locations and places that this document could potentially live, and then go ahead and make sure that when updates happen, I correctly identify and tell those individuals. So that's what's happening there. So that's pending actions, that's stakeholders. Those are the easy ones. So let's get into the kind of the nuts and bolts of document management. The first document's always the easiest. We've created it, we uploaded our neat procedure document, now it's there for everyone to use. It's been a year later, and now we need to update and upload that new version of the document. How do we handle it? How do we manage it? And how do we tell people that something has changed? And that's where QMS comes in. So when I go to versions, I'm going to see that our current version is number 1 here, and I'm going to say I want to upload a new version. I'm going to pick this document I have. We're going to call it version 2.0, and I can go ahead and put in some notes, updated to a new procedure. For the X, Y, and Z, whatever. Okay. That's the first step. We upload this document, it iterates it, cool. But there's some options underneath it. The first item here is we can choose to notify users that this document has been updated. So if I wanted to, I could pick a handful of people and say, hey, I'm going to send them an email. There is a new version of the QMS 201, please take a look at it, right? Something along those lines. So I could do that step. So when I click the upload new version, we would upload the new version, iterate everything, and also send out the email. Beyond that, though, maybe an email is not enough, right? Maybe I don't want to just email them. Maybe this is something that's tied to individual training records. And because we're updating this document, there's a training component that needs to be updated as well. That's also super common. So I could come in here and say, actually, right, these users, they need to do training, and this is part of the PT development, and this deals with schemes, right? And we could say, please review the QMS 201 document and notate changes. Right? We could set a due date that they have to have this done by a certain amount of time. And similar to what would happen here, the first one, we just sent an email to them. It's kind of, lost in the ether. We sent the email, we told people. In this case, we send a training record to them. So they receive an email saying there is training due that requires them to come back and log into QMS, notate that they've done the training, and whatever other items you might want along with the training piece. That's a whole other set of meetings that we could have or webinars and talk about how we manage training, but this is really important. The third option here is simply, on the upload, I want to update the last reviewed date, right? Maybe, you uploaded this, we did this today on May 14th. If I uploaded this on July 14th, maybe I want to make that review date 12 months later because that's the standard. So I could just check that box, and it's just going to simply mark the document as reviewed later on. So I'll check that and then go ahead and hit new. So now I have uploaded my new version. It's the current version here. I've got my notes. And what you'll see here is now we started to build a history of that document, because that's the key piece of document control. It's not just, do I have a document uploaded? Can I get to previous versions of that document? Can I read them, view them, all those kind of fun things? So you'll notice here there's a view button, so I could click on this and it would pop open my document, which is very cool. It just has the word special document in it, but I could read it directly from QMS, or I could go ahead and download that file as well. So it gives you that historical view along with all the information. The last tab here is the reviews. Now you remember I checked the box to say I wanted a review, so I added that. Typically there are times when you might review a document, but you're not uploading a new version. Maybe it's a year later. You're supposed to review this document on an annual basis. So maybe it is, 5/9/2025, and I came in, reviewed document, no changes are needed, right? And go ahead and click my add review, and it would add it to the list down here below. So we're managing the review process of this document. And when I do that review, it would update the date. In this case, it's the same because we're reviewing it on the same day. But that kind of becomes the general idea of that document review process. And once I am done, I can go back to my list and I can see everything that I had there before. So the document management, although it seems simple at face value, it's important to understand the key elements. It's about being able to upload the document and having a strong history of that document, not just when do I need to review it, but who reviewed it, what were the changes made in it, and what is the historical aspect of that artifact? Did it change? So, in an audit, I could come back and compare the two versions of the document to see what did change between them. And those are kind of those important aspects that happen inside of document review. And this is getting more and more difficult as organizations actually move to tools like SharePoint and Google Drives and other things like that, because the documents are actually auto-saving anytime you make the change. So you're losing that ability to have the historical knowledge or the concrete proof that the document was reviewed at a certain time, because if I just saved it in OneDrive, well, anytime anyone updates it, it just changes and is constantly saving, which is a great feature, but at the same time, you lose that historical knowledge of the document and its history and everything else like that. So it's important to kind of understand and weigh the pros and cons of those. Up at the top, right, I can just search for stuff, and that's the important piece, right? I want to be able to search, or again, you'll remember I put that quality tag on there, so I could, limit this down to everything that's in quality. So that's kind of the high level so far of documents. So if you've got questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. And one person's already asked about the security permissions and all that kind of fun stuff, which is a great segue into this next piece. So we'll come back here in a moment. But the question that comes up all the time is, we have documents, we have document control, but I need to control who has access to them and how they can manage them within their organization. So, and this goes back to that idea of sites. So you'll remember in my demo environment, we had Albuquerque and Boston. Let's say we've got an example here. We've got 3 sites, Minneapolis, Denver, and Dallas. And each one of them has some sort of quality manager. In this case, Sally is the quality manager at Minneapolis. She's an admin for the Minneapolis location, and they have 3 documents. So if David were to log into the system, he only has access to Dallas records. He wouldn't be able to see Minneapolis or Denver, because his environment, and he is scoped only to the idea of Dallas documents, which is really helpful because you might have different documents that are specific to organization or to different sites and locations, but at the same time, you might have a desire to create documents across the wide spectrum of the organization. So one of the features that's being released this week is this new security idea around permissions inside of sites. So you'll remember when I was picking that site option, there was also that all sites option. So what we're doing now is we're introducing this concept of all sites. So when I create a new document, I'm going to mark it as all sites, which means if someone has access, they then have the ability then to be able to see all the documents. So if I created that new document, and instead of picking Denver, I marked it as all sites, then regardless of who logged in, right, Sally, Betty, or David, they'd be able to see that all site document and they'd have the full list. So if you went back real quick and we looked at that, you'll notice, right, these documents are marked as all sites. So they then have the ability to go and see those. The follow-up question then becomes, well, that's great. I want them to be able to see the document, but I don't want everyone to be able to read or to change that document. I still need to have document control, even though it's available to a number of people. So the second piece, in addition to all sites, is you have the ability then to manage who has permission to the all sites. So I could, in my example here, say that Sally has full access, which means Sally can upload and change and modify and do anything that Sally wants to those documents in the all sites. But Betty and David, on the other hand, when they log in, they would be able to see, right? Betty logs in, Betty would see all the documents that are scoped for Denver, but Betty would also see the all sites document, but because she's set to read only, she can only read these 5 documents, but has full control over the 2 documents that are inside of Denver, giving you the ability then to separate your permissions both at a individual site location, but then also at a global level across all sites. And the other piece we've done to make this easy is anytime you create a new user, we automatically bring them in and give them read-only access to all sites. So that's the last piece of kind of the permissions puzzle that allows me to control at a really granular basis now who has access to specific documents, both at a site level, at a global level, and then who can read and write and do permissions against them. And the other great piece is this isn't just specific to just document control. We're using the same model across all of the modules inside of QMS. So after this weekend's update, everything that's in documents and corrective actions will follow this same structure, with audits and meetings and other items coming shortly thereafter, giving you that same kind of document, same kind of security permissions at a really high level. So we're really excited about this. This is probably our #1 ask from customers, is how do we, handle the permissions and how do we make certain items available to everyone in the organization, but a handful of items only available to 1 or 2 people in the organization. So we'll be able to do that through this. All right. So that was a longer-winded conversation about permissions, but a really important one. So hopefully that answered that previous question. Makes this facility an accreditation manager as opposed to a QMS manager? We just, I guess it's marketing terms, I guess, is the best way to describe it, Ned. Right, like we're helping you manage your accreditation. We're not accrediting you, right? We're not an accrediting body or anything else like that. But when your accrediting body does come in, right, these are the questions they ask all the time. How do you manage documents? How do you ensure they're reviewed? How do you ensure that people are being trained on them when there are changes? All those kind of fun things. So QMS manager or accreditation manager is what helps you kind of manage that process. All right. So let's just talk, put the idea behind some features, right? What can we do? You can upload your documents, right? We can quickly search by name and tags. We can track who those shareholders are, right? Those are the individuals who have some sort of vested interest in that document or a location or whatever the case might be. We can create the review schedule. We understand when a document needs to be reviewed, how often it does. And the key piece here is every document could technically have a different review schedule. So you could have documents in your organization, right, that need to review every 3 months and others that might need to review every 24 months. You can manage both of those within this system because you're specifying at the document level what's the review process. We get to track the document lifecycle from start to finish, right? From the initial version through every version that's updated. You saw the idea of being able to create pending actions against documents. Number 7, when documents come for review or overdue, we'll send you an email letting you know that you have documents that are past due. So inside of settings, you can specify who receives these overdue notices so that if a document is missed as part of a review process, you have something helping you remind you that, hey, I've got documents that need to be reviewed. I should make sure to get in there and take care of that stuff. And the last piece, Ray, that we just talked about in depth, that we give you the security options you need to be able to manage your documents at the different levels that you really need to. So what's coming up? How, what are we adding to it in addition to what we already have here? So the first item, right, is we're going to be able to let you create corrective actions off of a document. That's a very common scenario, just like we do pending actions. Maybe something is wrong enough, I don't like using the term wrong, but problem statement enough that you require a corrective action specifically to a document. So you'll be able to create and use our corrective action module to be able to manage those and create CARs directly against documents. The second one is to have external sources to store your files. Maybe you don't want to store the file, upload the file. Maybe you have a SharePoint or Google Drive site, but you still need to manage where the file is and the versioning and all those other kind of fun things. So you'll be able to specify external sources. And the third one we're really excited about is organizations that are using QMS and also NAPT for their PT management. You'll be able to add and link documents from the document management to your ILC PT enrollment. So imagine you have ordered a new PT for the height gauge and you have a specific procedure within your organization that you want everyone to follow along with the process. We today, right, show you the data reporting sheet and the instruction sheet, but maybe there's a third or fourth or fifth document that you want to link back to that enrollment so that when the technician is doing the ILC PT, they're reading it directly from the documents inside of document management. So really kind of bringing those all together. So those are some of the small things that we're working on for the future. So with that said, if there's any other questions, how big are the files that I can upload was a question. The system caps out at 50 megs. So if you have a document that's larger than 50 megs, it's going to tell you it's too big. You probably really shouldn't have a document larger than 50 megs. I don't know what you're hiding in that document at that point in time. So that's one item. The second item that was asked, is there any issues with naming, like name length? Now you can make, when you're uploading the items, you can make them as long as you want. So if you've got a really complex naming system, you can feel free to kind of get creative and do whatever you want there. And let's see, there was one other question I saw. On the security, can there be multiple individuals who have the ability to edit that all sites? And the answer is yes, right? So if you look back at this example, right, I'm saying here that Sally has access to all sites and can do all that editing. I could make that same change, and let's say I want Sally and Betty both to be able to do all of those changes. I could go ahead and make that as a permission set. So you can get really creative with how you hand out permissions. So with that said, that looks like that is all the questions that we have for this one. As always, we'll go ahead and we'll upload this video to our website. So if you have any further questions, you can always feel free to watch it back. And if you have questions, you can always reach out to us at napt@proficiency.org, and we're more than happy to answer those. So thank you, everyone. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and we look forward to our next webinar. Thank you.